Oh, Jake, this is where you are. What's up?
What's up?
I heard that you were in LA, but everywhere I go, you shouldn't be there, and you haven't talked to me at
Are you
all,
here
or
quickly?
He's not in LA anymore.
Oh, I see. You left already. Oh, that's cool. Convenient, Jake. Thanks.
Yeah.
Destiny, don't even try that. I invited you to dinner.
I was busy. I had to work again.
Yeah, Destiny. Let's talk about invitations to hang out.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Remember when you didn't even remember you saw me at TwitchCon? I'm hurt.
Remember when I texted you
I'm
20
hurt.
times to
I'm
ask if you
hurt.
wanted to hang out?
I didn't even see you. Okay. All right, what are we doing? Did I miss any?
I love you, man.
Did I miss any good topics? Oh,
Hi,
Jake.
John.
How you doing,
What
John?
up,
Man, you
Zerka?
good?
Hello,
Hey guys,
Zerka.
how are you guys? Hey, Richard, how are you?
Losing my mind slowly.
Why? I saw you got triggered. What the fuck?
Dude, I just hate anti-science nonsense.
You're just a
Like,
pussy, Richard. You're just a pussy. That's
is that what it is?
Wait, anti-science nonsense. Ooh, what were we talking about, boys?
We were talking about video games being addicted, and Richard needs us to have professionals that are approved by him in order for them to be any evidence.
just some scientific professionals would be nice. Just
Devin
some.
gave you
But
some
not a
Don't have to
Harvard
be a
psychiatrist.
What's the position we're taking here? Wait,
Richard says that video game addiction doesn't
Everybody in the
exist.
chat and everybody on the stream says video games are actually addictive. I was like, whoa, that's a first.
Wait, I want Destiny's take.
Go
yeah,
ahead.
this is like a super. We can science this out. This is like super clear cut, really easy. When the APA
Yeah,
looks
it
to
is.
define things that it thinks are addictive, or like addictions, or like negative addictions, the things that we pathologize are usually things that interfere with your ability to live like a normal life. So, for instance, if you have trouble going to work, if you can't clean or take care of yourself, if you're missing important social engagements, if you have difficulty
gamer.
maintaining relationships, if you have some activity that's like keeping you from doing these things, then we would call this like an addiction. I don't think anybody would say that video games can't fill that void. But I mean, like, video games can be addicting. Video games can also be enjoyed in a responsible manner. This is true of almost everything. You could say the same for, say, alcohol. I don't think there's anything controversial.
So
there, right?
my point was, Stephen, was that the internet gaming disorder and gaming addiction is what it's currently labeled a DSM-5.
Yeah.
Which is that it's not an official disorder in any way, and it needs further study. That was all I
Well,
said.
my
And
understanding of that
was a hugely controversial take.
My understanding of that video
Silly
game
me.
addiction disorder was I think they literally lifted the language off of gambling and they replaced it with gaming.
Yeah. No, but that was actually what the psychiatrists and the psychologists were pushing back against.
Okay, I don't
there's a
know
bunch
what
of
they're
people that
pushing back
petitioned
against,
the World
but-
Health Organization and basically said, like, actually, you can't do this without further studies for this thing specifically. So
You're moving the goalpost a lot because before you said
Definitely
that video
didn't.
game addiction didn't
You gonna take
exist.
that, Richard? You gonna take that?
Yeah, so just looking up real quick what the WHO said, to be diagnosed, the behavior must be severe enough to cause significant impairment in personal, family, social, educational, occupational, or other important areas of functioning. So more or less what I said earlier. I don't think there's anything controversial
How
about
about
that.
No,
gamers
you're
that
not saying
die
anything
in Korea
controversial or
because they
contradicting
spend
at all,
fucking
no.
5 days in a row gaming. Does that count as an addiction?
Well, considering
brought up
that's
that topic
preventing you
for
from maintaining a normal, healthy life, that probably would, sure.
Well, what I found surprising though was like a chat of predominantly gamers would want to kind of surrender that. Oh, gaming is addictive. There's no debate. There's no
It's
need
called
for
being
science.
self-aware.
Okay, sure. That's,
Well, hold on. I mean,
way of
Richard,
looking at
you've
it.
talked about this a lot. Gaming, there can be aspects of gaming that are addictive. I guarantee you that if I go through your
Which
Twitter
are-
history, you've probably written about like loot boxes, right?
yeah, sure, because there's a lot of science. I actually haven't written that much about that, and I was very much on the fence about loot boxes, honestly, to begin with. Where I think loot boxes become dangerous aren't with adults; it's with children, because children obviously don't know how to self-regulate.
Yeah, but the same can be said about gaming, right?
No, no. Right, so not all gaming has equivalent loot box mechanics, right? I mean, you agree with that?
No, it doesn't. But you can display like a similar pattern of behavior. You're not able to regulate it. You start to sacrifice your social.
Yeah, but you can
life,
do
your
that with
school life.
sports, for example.
Yeah, you could, sure.
Yeah, there's a
But
lot
your
of
previous
sports players.
position was that video game addiction didn't exist.
There's no
And now-
science to suggest it exists, is what I said.
Okay, dude. That's a good goalpost move there. So
No, it's
I
that's
have
not moving the
something
goalpost at all. There is no science to
as
suggest
soon as
it does.
Destiny comes on and you admit it's DSM whatever, and that it
No,
actually
well, you wouldn't even let me talk.
Wait,
You
do
wouldn't
you
even let
think
me
it's
talk.
actually addictive? Because you took the stance that it wasn't.
Andy become.
No, I don't think it is. No.
Okay, then just
Wait, okay, so as somebody
I
that's
just said
actually
That
played,
isn't what
like,
we're talking
so
about.
As somebody
My
that's
thoughts
played,
on what we're talking about. I'm talking about science. My thoughts.
yeah, as
on
long as you
Wait,
back up your
we
statement.
can talk about science. We can talk about like reward schedules or reinforcement schedules, like ways that players are rewarded for playing games these days. So as somebody that has like a somewhat of an interest in psychology, now I'm not like a Harvard psychologist or anything. If you've played a lot of video games recently, there has been a definite trend towards like gamifying video games in ways that are definitely reminiscent of like gambling reward schedules that you would see in casinos.
Sure, yeah,
So for
absolutely.
instance, it's very important, like every time you're playing a game, like if you take your first fucking step, you get an achievement. You know, if you open a door, you get 20 experience for opening doors so that you gain leveling. Like all of these things are meant to like reinforce and cause like addictive reward patterns in the game or in the brain. The best example of this, to see this like on crack, would be things like mobile games. Which like exemplify these types of addictive formulas. But I think that most games today start to resemble these things. Look at the Ubisoft formula, right? Walk to an area, climb up a tower, unlock all the little check marks on the thing, level up like 4 different abilities, and like all of it like, yeah.
Destiny, couldn't you make the same argument for social media?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
they do, actually.
That's what Richard is saying. That's
There's
what
Which
a
is
Richard
plethora of
funnily
research on
enough,
it.
I'm actually more inclined. Like if you were to present to me, social media is addictive. If you present it to me with no science, which was the argument that was being presented earlier, I'd be more inclined to believe, with no scientific basis, social media and the internet is more addictive than just out and out video games.
Well, there's a great deal of scientific investigation about social media, though, and most
Sure,
people,
there is, yeah.
there's like a consensus kind of gathering that like social media usage is at the very least correlated with very negative mental health outcomes.
So why is
Sure,
it
but-
crazy for me to take a leap of faith without science backing up my opinion about video games being addictive? So crazy and outlandish. If you're going to take that same position
believe in
with social
God?
media, no, but that's not the point.
That's a leap of faith without science. Do you believe in God, or do you think people who believe
That's
in God
not
are
true,
ridiculous?
Richard. That's not true.
You're,
If you
you're
look at-
changing the fucking
Richard,
subject.
I'm not
Richard,
changing the
exact
subject.
same thing
I'm
with video
taking your
games.
logic and applying it to another
Richard,
area.
Richard, that's not true.
That's
it's
bullshit.
Not a leap of, it's not
That's
a
not
leap
bullshit.
Of
That's
faith.
exactly
Richard.
fair. How is saying I want a scientific presentation of evidence? How is that dismissing science? I would say it's the exact opposite.
Well, like the way that we define video game disorder, we don't need any more scientific investigation to make this definition. We can
No,
say
well,
that,
actually, that's where I would disagree, because
Okay, yeah, but
that isn't true. Multiple doctors have wrote to the World Health Organization, so we actually do need more.
well, so if you define as the WHO video game addiction as players that have engaged in a negative behavior lasting for 12 or more months that impairs a person's ability to live their life, would anybody here disagree that that's a video game addiction? Like,
no,
that's it. Like we don't.
So what they've said is, though, you can apply, if you take those loose definitions, you can apply them to anything. So the recognition of gaming addiction as a real thing is invalid. They argued this in 2016. They argued this at the start of this year. I can show you the letter. I'll put it in the group chat. Not that anyone cares, but the doctors are like, listen, we're a little bit ahead of the curve by openly declaring that this is an out-and-out addiction to begin with. Most doctors outside of the world, they think the World Health Organization are doing it for attention, political reasons, whatever you want to call it. But most doctors are saying we don't have the science yet. Now that's all I'm in line with.
Wait, what do we need science for here?
See,
That's
now
what I
this,
said.
no, but this is my point.
It's very clear with your two eyes.
Do you not need science for a medical diagnosis? If you believe no, then that's fine. You're on the side
So
of these guys.
the question here is that we can define addictive behaviors as behaviors that are impairing your ability to live a normal life. Now, if you wanted to say we need a more accurate definition for a prescription, like to prescribe some recommended treatment, well, then yeah, I would agree. Well, if we're going to say that video game addiction is a problem, we need like more research to figure out how best to treat it, then that's a good conversation. But to just identify something as like an addictive behavior, like you can identify anything. You can say sex addiction, gambling addiction, alcoholic addiction, like anything that impairs your ability to function within the bounds of what we
But I
consider
think
normal
what you're
human
talking
beings
about
would be
there
addictive.
is you're
talking
not
about
talk-
logic.
You're not talking about specific addictions. You're talking about anybody can do anything and it can have a negative impact on their life, which obviously I would also subscribe to. When you want to label something by the World Health Organization as a condition and therefore a treatable condition, and spoiler, I've written about this extensively. One of the things they want to do is they want to have gaming addiction centers because guess what? It makes the government money to do that, and they want parents afraid, and they want them sending kids to these treatment
And maybe the
centers.
kids actually need help.
I think with the more likely
Right.
thing to happen is that if you identify this video game addiction as a potential problem, then the research begins. Now there might be like, I have never heard of a video game addiction rehab center opening. Maybe
well,
there's one.
I'll show you one.
Yeah, sure. Like, and I mean, I'm sure we can find one or two of anything.
No.
But like, the point
There's a
of
big
like
push for them, actually.
I don't agree that there's a big push. You might be able to find me an article where one or two people are talking about it, but I seriously doubt there's legislation that has like a majority of
Again,
people
don't
ready
bring
to vote
government
on it.
legislation into it. What I'm talking about is there's a push as a private medical business.
Oh yeah, people will make it. There's a push to sell plants to people that like cures cancer. I mean, like we can find a push for anything. But like one of the first steps in like studying any particular type of negative behavior is identifying it, right? So now we have a definition for video game behavior. I'm sure people will publish studies back and forth on whether it is a problem or isn't a problem, and then we just go from there. But as long as nobody's making any big prescriptions saying like, oh, well, we need to ban all video games or something like that.
Well, I mean, that's definitely also happening, isn't it?
Well, but that's always been happening. I don't think it's happening in response to
But
this.
you're also using
So
semantics on your
if you
side for the
surrender the
argument.
territory of video games being addictive without any scientific basis for it, I think that's a pretty big part of the ground that you might want to occupy.
I think that's a pretty big part of being like somebody that responsibly enjoys a hobby. Like I would tell the same to my son. Hey, like you can't be on, Roblox like 27 hours a day. Like video games can be addicting. They can destroy your life. I know they've ruined a large portion of my high school experience. I fucked a lot of school up because I was addicted as fuck to video games. Holy shit. I would go to sleep when I'd get home from school and I'd wake up at like 2 a.m. so that I could play, and I'd skip homework and everything. I mean, like, and that's an anecdote, so that means fuck all. But if you're gonna like participate in video games, which we do, we should be aware of the upsides and the downsides of it as well. Like that's true of everything. It's true of
I definitely
saying
think a lot of the problems can be solved with solid parenting. By the way, I'm not.
Why
solid
don't we-
parenting. Wait. Solid parenting. That's a cop out. That doesn't mean anything. What does solid parenting mean? What we need to
Actually
do is
being
we need
interested
to.
in what your kids are doing.
What does that mean?
It means parenting solidly.
You guys are full of shit. So let me tell you what a real answer is. A real answer would be you need to identify like certain behaviors that are bad. So we need to have like a vocabulary for them. So maybe like video game addiction, and then you need to have a specific regimen that you take to counteract that. So maybe limiting the amount of hours your kids play. So if we were to say hypothetically identify video game addiction as a real thing and it's something for parents to keep an eye out for. Okay, well if my kid is failing school or doing this, here are the steps that I can take to correct that. That would be like an example of like good
I
parenting.
agree.
You can't just say good parenting to like fix problems. It doesn't mean anything. Like you need like an actual set of things you can do.
All right. Can we please move the fuck on from this topic? Just agree to disagree. It's that simple.
Yeah,
Can we just-
we can move on. Yeah,
Sure.
So is everyone ready? Everyone agrees to disagree?
Yep.
I mean, there's nothing to disagree about. It's science. So
This
Yeah,
guy
I-
can't. You just can't even have a conversation and admit that there might be two sides to an issue.
And
That's
he
what drives
totally,
me crazy.
and he
It's
totally
not
used semantics for his argument too.
Yeah,
Here we
he was
go.
He was straight arguing that they
It's
weren't
hilarious.
addictive,
Wait,
and then he
let me
was
say
using
one thing.
semantics
Let me say
to
one
go
thing.
find-
I'm the
Let me say
butthurt
one thing. Let me say one thing. Just one thing, okay?
Yeah, there we
I
go.
think if you can't see that there are two possible sides of the issue, right or wrong, doesn't matter. But being able to converse on both sides of the issue and explore it is
I
the problem
literally
here. The
said
fact
there are
that you
two
can't
sides,
do that.
but I'll go with the one that science leans to in the meantime.
That's your
exactly what I said.
prerogative, but you should allow both of those conversations. As soon as Destiny came in, your tone completely changed because he was able to.
you're about to get all
what I said.
Okay, let him get the last word, and then we'll move on.
Yeah.
No, let's. You've definitely not done that at all. This podcast, bro.
No, you got it. You got to get the last word. Go ahead.
Guys, by the way, there's
I want to
14,000
go
in
back out
here.
drinking. Why did I come back home to this drink? What the fuck?
Yeah, like you don't live for this shit, Destiny. Eat a dick.
Yeah, right, dude. Amen, brother. That is absolutely true. I say shit like that, but I fucking love it. Can I just give like a super ultra general overview of this? And it doesn't have to get like super political, right? So there are protests right now in Hong Kong. Hong Kong wants more independence from China because they feel like they deserve it. China sees it as a threat to its autonomy. Like, well, hey, Hong Kong, you're technically like our dudes. Like, you can't just leave us. And this is like causing like a huge point of conflict because of like other things related to that. I think that's like the gist of it.
No, but the overarching part is that you can't say anything critical about China, which causes all of the other problems here.
No, not really. So the argument given is like, let's say that another company were to come into the United States, okay? I'm going to be very hyperbolic here, but let's say a company comes into the United States, somebody's competing in the US, okay? And let's say they get on stage, okay, in a private broadcast, and they're like, hey, I support ISIS, the freedom fighters in the Middle East. chances are American people would go fucking crazy. I don't know if we would make it illegal or if we'd actually find them or whatever. I don't think we'd do that, but that shit would be boycotted like out of existence. Like people would go fucking apeshit. There'd be like a lot of fucking pressure for that. Even for Colin Kaepernick, there was a lot of pressure for that from different people. And it's viewed similarly over there, that if you go and you support like people that are trying to like basically exit a country, then a country that feels like they are entitled to that land, then they're going to be asked about it as well. And so the argument is whether or not, like, how much do our companies need to cut themselves in order to gain access to that Chinese market is kind of what the question is. And then should you have a right on another person's private broadcast to make a political statement? And I think these are valid discussion topics. Obviously, personal politics aside, because there's a lot of shit you can say about what's going on between China and Hong Kong, but personal politics aside, these are general conversations that could apply to any company in any part of the world. It's just China has some extra shit going on with it right now that makes it like an extra juicy topic.
I mean,
but listen, China more than
the second sentence of what you said is fine. Comparing the Hong Kong protesters to ISIS, come on, man. That's fucking crazy shit.
It's crazy because you're an American, but that's how the Chinese would view it. They have a territory that's literally like wanting to leave China when that's not really the agreements that they have set up, and to go and support people that are basically.
It's about this extradition stuff I talked about at the start. It's
Sure, you can get more into the finer details, but I'm just saying that that's how it would come across from like a Chinese perspective, that basically you have a company that is bringing on a player that's making a political statement that's basically celebrating a region leaving your country. It's like a threat to your sovereignty, basically. Like that's more or less.
They don't
like
want to leave. They just don't want to get fucking extradited and disappeared by the Chinese government if they protested.
Sure, right now that seems to be the case, but like the broader conversation has to do with like Hong Kong maintaining some level of independence from China, which has already been like extended and like renegotiated in ways that China probably
they are not separatists.
Okay, hang on.
I mean, okay, let me ask you guys. Let me ask a question. Are you guys surprised about this? Like that?
No.
Are you guys surprised Blizzard's being a business?
I'm surprised that a company where a CEO comes out and says we are disappointed in Trump's Muslim ban, which was never a Muslim ban. That's a lie. Activision Blizzard then go and do business in China.
Okay, hold
where
on.
they're literally putting Muslims in
this isn't
concentration
confusing
camps.
at all. So the prime motivation of a firm is to return profit to its shareholders. It's not confusing why Blizzard would criticize Trump and not criticize China. By criticizing Trump, they don't lose access to American markets. Mm-hmm. By criticizing China, they lose access to Chinese markets. That's why they're critical of Trump.
But it is hypocritical, right?
It depends on how you view it. If you understand that a firm's main job is to return value to its shareholders, then no, you expect them to operate in for-profit ways at all points in time. That's what firms do in a capitalist economy. So Blizzard is acting completely exactly how you would expect them to. I don't think anything is very surprising.
In the Blizzard player that got banned and got his prize money taken away, I've heard rumors. Now, I need one of you people in here that know the facts. I've heard rumors that what he did went against the contract he signed. Is this true?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
If this is true, I'm like, listen, sure, maybe on a moral and ethics standpoint, it's wrong, but based on the contract he signed this. He needs to do a better job of reading it. You cannot sign this contract and then do something and then be mad and everyone gets mad for him. Like, he broke a contract.
The reality is the terms of the code of conduct, rather, that he agreed to is so all-encompassing to be egregious. So what it says, the rule he broke, it says you cannot do anything that brings you into public disrepute. He didn't do that, so ignore that.
Okay.
You cannot do anything that offends a portion or group of the people. So you cannot offend anybody.
No, this is a ridiculous, like, word by word reading.
Otherwise, damages Blizzard's image.
No. This is such a dumb red herring. You're gonna make, like, if this guy had gone on wearing like a piece of clothing that we deemed offensive, and then we could have this conversation. But this guy basically went on and he said, "I support somebody that China almost considers."
He's from Hong Kong, by the way.
Doesn't matter. Like,
it makes
it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference at all. This guy basically went on and said, "Hey, China, these people that you consider terrorists, I support them." That's why I use the analogy of a guy coming onto an American stage and saying, "Hey, I think ISIS is doing a good job in the Middle East." Right?
It's definitely not comparable.
Dude, what the fuck?
Sure.
Destiny.
What?
I do not think those two are the same.
Tell me why they're not the same.
Why the protesters in Hong Kong aren't?
Tell me why China wouldn't see the Hong Kong protesters as a terrorist threat, an existential threat to their nation, in the same way that we would see somebody like ISIS.
Because they're not separatists. They're not asking to be separate from the nation.
You don't think China could view them as separatists when they're literally waving American and United Kingdom flags, and when they're like pointing to other countries outside for help?
What they want is their own government to protect them from extradition to China. That's all.
You think that's the only thing the Hong Kongers want right now?
That
I'm
is
pretty
the
sure
biggest
even
thing. That is literally what sparked the riots.
That's part of like the 5 demands. I don't remember what the other 4 are, but they're demanding more than that now. And I'm pretty sure Hong Kong.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure Hong Kong.
You know how we got to that stage? Because the Hong Kong government said, "Listen, guys, you're right.
I'm not arguing the politics. I don't want to argue the politics.
Why not? It's about politics.
It's not, because the politics.
No, it's about the terms of service and what Blizzard enforces.
Yeah, I'm just saying that like what the person said was a very extreme statement in the eyes of like China.
Liberate Hong Kong, revolution in our time.
Yeah, that's a really extreme. Like China literally.
You're comparing that to ISIS propaganda. Come on, dude.
Oh shit.
It's better than that, though. You know it isn't the same.
It's not about the same or not. It's about whether or not you have the mind to actually comprehend viewing a problem from someone. No. You don't. Stop. Okay. So right now, today in China, okay, there is literally a modern-day Holocaust taking place with the Uyghurs, okay? This is something that I believe. This is something that's been verified by Western fucking intelligence, okay? I'm not sitting here trying to argue that China is in the right, but you can't even comprehend what I'm saying. You're so bent. Yeah, you're so bent over. No, because you're sitting here trying to say like, oh, Hong Kong is in the right. Oh, they're defending blah blah blah. Yeah, I agree with you. That's fine. I'm not going to argue against that. But that's not relevant to this argument. What's relevant is that basically a guy got on stage, and in the eyes of China, I don't agree with China, Richard. Okay, stop arguing in favor of the Hong Kongers. Okay, I already agree with all that. But what he did was he said, in the eyes of China, we support people that you have identified as literally being part of the worst crisis in Hong Kong. Okay, since the handover in '97. Okay, that's what China's official position is. If you're going to get on stage and say that, then of course a company that's trying to win favor and gain access to those markets is going to penalize you for it. That's it. It's not a political issue about, oh, is Hong Kong right or wrong, blah, 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 blah. We're just talking about Blizzard's action as a company, okay? That's all we're talking about. We don't need to dive into the politics of whether or not the Hong Kongers are in the right or the wrong.
But what I'm trying to say is, saying I stand with Hong Kong? You're
I can't believe it. Did he hear anything I said?
Okay.
Does anyone else hear?
Yeah, no, I did.
Yeah.
I did. So I'm saying, you consider that to be like an extreme?
No,
that's the equivalent. I'm sorry. I keep saying it's the equivalent.
Considers that. He's not saying he, from his perspective, considers that. He's just saying.
I know. Okay.
Thank you.
So from Blizzard's perspective, how could Blizzard interpret it?
Because Blizzard wants that. Blizzard doesn't interpret it that way, but they want China's favor. That's all.
And they're not comfortable with those political statements being made on their stage.
So do you think that is a reasonable assertion from the Chinese government? That's
not what the question is about.
It doesn't matter.
It has to be if they enforce it that way.
No, it's
China's not enforcing this. What do you mean?
Blizzard.
It's Blizzard that's enforcing it because
Blizzard are enforcing it on behalf of conversations they've had with Chinese business.
Blizzard is enforcing it because they want access to Chinese markets.
They are using the rules that we just talked about, right? Where they said you can't bring yourself into disrepute, you can't offend the public, and you can't bring Blizzard's reputation into disrepute. My point is they are enforcing those rules, that rule, specifically based around that talk. How is that sentence compatible with that rule? That is my point.
The rule is going to be designed to return value to shareholders. Let's say that 100% of my stock is in Blizzard because I'm a dumb fuck and I want to invest in stocks, and all of my stock is in Blizzard. Let's say Blizzard comes out and they say, you know what? We're going to take a principled stance against this. Fuck this. We're leaving China. Oh, cool. My fucking portfolio just got cut by like fucking 50% or whatever fucking Blizzard's, involvement is in that market. Like, okay, well, fuck me. Like, what? Does a company tank overnight? Like, people would sell their shit like immediately. Who the fuck would back publicly a company that's going to like destroy the company so hard? Like, at the end of the day, Blizzard's responsibility is to their shareholders.
Okay, so then if we look at it, all of us, in terms of just the way the American companies have reacted, do you think they made good decisions? Both the NBA, Activision Blizzard, and some of the other, Apple, for example.
Different companies have different, and the NBA, as far as I'm aware, is not publicly traded, right? So their owners can say whatever the fuck they want to say. And also, Riot, my understanding.
Wait. Can I just respond real quick? They might not be a publicly traded company, but because of everything that happened, the salary cap for the NBA next year might go down $15 million because of loss of revenue and sponsors. So it does directly affect the way that NBA makes money and the players make money.
Okay. Employees are a cost of doing business. You don't have an obligation to raise your costs of doing business. Okay. A publicly traded company has an obligation to its shareholders, literally a fiduciary responsibility to its shareholders. A private company can fuck its employees over if it wants. That's a cost of doing business. You can have meetings with other investors. If you're a majority, owner or investor, you can make decisions on behalf of the company. That's why I think Epic Games, I don't think it's publicly traded, right? They have like the guy that had the controlling stake. He said, "Oh well, fuck China." Yeah, and he can do that. That's fine. He owns the company. But once you're publicly traded, you have a different set of obligations. Now, if the NBA owners decide, hey, we're going to go ahead and take this, trade-off, fuck the revenue, we don't care, we're going to take a principled stance against it, that's fine. They can do that. That's great. If they want to do that, that's fine. I champion stuff like that. That's great. I don't know if it'll make a difference. There are better ways to make a difference if you really want to. But if they want to do that, that's fine. But they have a different set of obligations in Activision Blizzard.
Don't we see this happening on smaller scales all over Twitch, all over other platforms, everywhere? When a streamer makes an argument, you're face palming, but when a streamer makes an argument toward anything that doesn't suit sponsors, the platform bans them, perma-bans them. This is an issue because it's an international thing that has politics involved and people fighting for different things that are morally just, blah, blah, all that stuff. But isn't this happening everywhere? So why is this only being talked about for this situation? Why not everything else?
It's literally wait. It's literally talked about so much that Republicans have gone before Congress to complain about Facebook banning conservatives off of their platform. Everybody's talking about this.
So my question for you guys, and kind of how I think of it, is that these companies don't believe that the Americans and Europeans are going to protest and stop buying as much as the Chinese will stop buying. If
that's not going to happen.
The problem is change will not happen because the very people who are sitting here mad about it are only mad to feel better about their lives and make them and justify their own shittiness, and by doing this, by making a comment temporarily. No one's actually doing something. No one's actually going out of the way, stepping outside, protesting. No one's actually doing something. This is all just to make yourself feel better temporarily. And when I give a take, it's just what it is.
The problem is that the answer to this question is very complicated, and it's not just a matter of just going out and doing something. Like, as an individual, you're never going to boycott so hard that companies are like, "Oh, you're right. Like, fuck China. Like, let's get rid of that." Like, that's just not how societies work. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah,
but that's
the solution
what
to stuff like this.
That's what should be talked about.
It's a worthless conversation. You're never going to organize a boycott. We couldn't even boycott fucking Chick-fil-A for hating gay people or whatever. Like,
that's what I'm saying. Nothing happens.
Boycott, whole companies that all give us products that we fucking love.
That's what I'm saying.
Your WoW subscription?
Fuck no. I'm playing WoW tomorrow.
Okay, wait. Yeah, so you just gave this huge impassioned speech, and you're still fucking playing WoW. So so at the end of the day,
that is actually what Train is saying. Is that no change is going to come. That's his whole point. No change is going to happen because literally everyone, like we've shown again and again and again, that any kind of boycotts are useless. Nobody's ever going to follow them.
Sure. The boring answer is, if you want to stop China from being able to do stuff like this, you need to be part of massive trade blocs. You need huge multilateral trade agreements so that you can put a lot of pressure on China to stop certain types of business practices. That's the only way it can happen. It has to be a highly coordinated approach between several countries that can threaten Chinese markets. Like, that's the only way you can do it. The individual boycotts or protests or the meanest tweets you can think of, or even harshly worded emails, are never going to change this issue. Like, too much money in China to be made right now.
Yeah, well, I seem to have heard something about a president that's trying to do that, right? And we all fucking hate him, so...
The reason why we hate him is because the president is not effectively able to negotiate something like that. The problem with dealing with an authoritarian regime, when you're a democratically elected body, China can take as much damage as it wants. It's never going to be politically threatened. Trump is going to get voted out of office if he fucks people over too hard with tariffs. So China is always going to be able to outweigh the United States when it comes to stuff like that. If Trump really wanted to effectively pressure China, he would be going through organizations like the WTO, or he would be championing multilateral trade agreements to pressure them, not doing this dumbass fucking tariff bullshit that any democratically elected body can never sustain against an authoritarian one.
Still think he's the first president in my lifetime, at least, that's actually talking about trying to tackle the Chinese trade problem.
Yeah, he might be trying to tackle it, but plenty of presidents in the past have tried tariffs. They've never worked in the past. Tariffs have always been a horrible means of actually trying to negotiate with a country. All they do is they damage your own economy. They're often levied in unintelligent and political ways, not economic ones, and it's just a bad idea all around.
You know, I talked about this earlier, on my stream, we were talking about China. It's like, for example, there was a Tencent employee, Tencent, the media partner of the NBA, and a commentator during a live game, during an NBA game, called LeBron James an ape. And the NBA, try and find this. You won't. It's been memory hold. And the NBA did nothing about that. A Chinese media partner racially abusing a legendary NBA player on air, and they did nothing. And do you know why they did nothing? Because of fucking money. There are fundamental problems in the double standard with how we treat the Chinese money and the Chinese media groups and the Chinese perception.
Is this factual stuff coming out of your mouth, or is this bias? Is there another side to the
what
story?
he's saying is 100% true, but the problem is the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem that he's identified. The fundamental problem he's identified here is capitalism. That's the problem. You live in a society where the goal is to return profits to companies. You can't criticize any individual actor in that system. Blizzard is acting in the exact way that you would expect them to act. If you have a problem here, then you're either going to have to either regulate it heavily via government, or you have to change your entire mode of production and move away from for-profit models. That's it. You can't have a system that rewards behaviors with profit and then create entities like firms that are designed to maximize profit and then give them investors, capital investors like shareholders that want to get a profit and then be like, why are companies going after all these profits? You either have to fundamentally change your economic system or you need heavy intervention from multiple governments. Like that's it.
And we all expect companies to be morally wrong. It's just the standard.
Yeah, that's it. Like companies we don't expect companies to be moral. It's not their job. We don't.
But then they preach on a different pulpit domestically.
Why is it so confusing to you? It's not about they're only preaching stuff because they make money doing. Yeah, they're just trying to make money. That's it.
I understand that, but the point is, how do you say one thing and then go and work with the government that
because
is fundamentally
they both make
the other?
money.
I don't think you're going to maintain some sort of credibility in my mind.
You don't need credibility. You just need to do what
wait
the
a minute,
public likes to make money. What?
Destiny, did you just say companies, it's not their job to be moral?
Of course not. We don't pay companies.
Hold up. You've gone into big rants where you say companies will choose morality over profit sometimes.
Fuck no. Why the fuck would I ever say something so stupid? No way. Companies will always side with profits.
What about Twitch?
What about it? Companies will side with things that are
What about
profitable for
Twitch?
them. What about Twitch?
Same thing.
They'll side with profit?
Yeah, of course.
But it does seem much more hypocritical in current days where brands are taking more public stances on social issues and they're speaking
brands
out
are only
all the time.
Oh my god.
Yeah, I know it's about money. No, Destiny. I realize it's all about getting.
That's what I said.
No,
brands don't become woke. Black Panther didn't show up because companies were like, man, we need more black representation in media. They said because black people have more money to go to the fucking theaters. That's it. Like that's what happened. There is no woke capitalism. There's for-profit capitalism.
But the spokespeople that are on the forefront of these issues, they are taking it hard, not just in terms of money, but they actually are believing what they're saying. So like Steve Kerr and Greg Popovich, for example, are always very critical of Trump accurately and things that are happening here in America that has to do with like racism and like black people getting killed by cops, etc. But they've been their responses on the China issue have been very hypocritical, and it makes them look bad. Obviously, it's about money, and they don't want to lose money for them, their team, or their players, but it hurts them definitely personally and their opinions the way they come across these certain issues.
So Destiny, you'd say it also for tech industries, right? That they don't have any moral backing. They're just in it for profit. So you're pretty much calling out the whole left wing, dude.
Oh shit, man.
Shit.
Okay. I don't think anybody in the left wing or whatever would disagree with anything I'm saying. But
well,
basically,
no, a lot of people in the left actually do. They really believe that these companies are doing it for only moral reasons.
Are you serious, dude? People on the left cry all the time about fake woke capitalism. What do you mean? There are plenty of people on the left that are like, oh, these advertisers say that they're being pro-men and Gillette is attacking, but they're not actually meaning it. They call out the other side on that shit all the time where they say capitalists don't mean any of this shit.
That is true. It just feels like there is some complacency on this issue.
There might be, and like we can look at it like if we want to have like the feelings podcast where we talk about how we think society should be, blah 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 blah. Like we can have that conversation. But the reality is that we live in a for-profit driven model, and at the end of the day, companies are going to maximize profits. And to look at it in any other way is you wasting your time and your brain power thinking like, how can it be this and this at the same time? They seem totally contradictory.
It's just naive. People are naive when they think about companies.
Yeah, it's not contradictory.
You're like a capitalist, dude.
Yeah, I am. I'm a hardcore fucking capitalist.
I know you.
It just sucks though, because sometimes like you do expect better, and then it's like it goes against that. And then
this is where the government steps in. Yeah, All right, I love you guys. It's been fun training. I have to leave. I got fucking a million things to do. But I'm
Oh
glad
wait,
I could come.
Steven, I really wanted to find out something tonight.
Oh no.
He wanted to ask you about the N-word.
Destiny,
quote.
go now.
Oh yeah, shit. I still have to pressure. There are 6 of you on this call that I don't have recordings yet of pressuring you into saying. I think we were outside like an ice cream shop, and I was and we were talking to NymN, and I think I said something to NymN, like, oh hey, like I either joked about somebody streaming or something. I was like, are you gonna say it because we're not streaming? It was like some passing comment like that. And apparently LSF has this like grand conspiracy now that I'm like pressuring streamers like Ice Poseidon to like log themselves saying the N-word. So I have like this death note of like people I can take out if they ever like fuck with me or some shit. I don't know.
No, but you say the N-word off stream.
Not usually, but sometimes it depends on the joke, I guess.
Okay, listen, I read a lot of these threads. I've hung out with Destiny a lot. I've never once heard him say that.
I've hung out with Destiny. I've heard
hours and hours and hours.
I don't think I've ever said that around you, Richard, because I don't trust you, motherfucker.
No, dude. Back when we were doing
question?
Unfiltered, you've never joked and said it. Come on.
No, wait, what? On Unfiltered? Those VODs are all online. No, of course.
No, I'm talking about in the
don't
shows
say around me,
before
man. You might get a headbutt.
Yeah,
Come on,
no.
dude. I've definitely heard you say it. What are you talking about?
Okay, I don't remember. But
Wait, I have a legit
But
question.
why wouldn't you trust me?
If
I'm the
I'm-
guy who wrote an article
Wait,
when you got kicked when you got kicked
All right,
out of
I'm
a
just
team
kidding.
for saying
Okay,
it.
I love you.
Why
All right,
wouldn't you trust me? I wrote an article going, hey, there's more to Destiny than this.
You got me.
So that's
okay.
outrageous.
I had a follow up for Steven. Given
what's
the
up?
current context and the way that I've heard you speak, especially in the last 2 years, don't you think it's given off the wrong message to your audience and others that you admit that you say it off stream occasionally?
So this has literally always been my stance on language. Every now and then I piss off like the wrong like lefty, and so they like to pretend that like they've caught me like admitting something. And the only reason this came up even recently was because there was some stupid drama that happened personally, and some girl thought she could like expose me on this. But my stance has
We
always
can
been
go to that too.
that's a whole other fucking thing.
No.
My stance on language. Okay, real quick. Here we go. Here's a quick rundown. Okay, I think that you should work on reducing harm in the world, and if you find that there is certain language publicly that you can use that causes harm to groups of people or furthers hurt or bigoted attitudes towards people, you shouldn't do it. So this is why I avoid even things like autistic and retarded. I try not to say on my stream, and haven't in quite a long time. Even though people still do on Twitch, racial slurs, racial jokes, this type of stuff on a public platform. I don't like to say this because I don't know who's listening, and I don't know what type of behavior I am furthering or emboldening. So that's why I don't do that. But among personal friends, like if it's me and one or two other guys and I know everything, we joke about a ton of edgy, sexist, racist, whatever fucking shit that would be totally unacceptable on a public platform. I've always maintained that stance. I've said it a million fucking times. There's nothing new about it. You can go all the way back to 2001 or whatever. I'm sure in fucking grade school, I've literally said that when I'm a big streamer, it's been my stance, and it's always been my stance on it.
Don't you think your position in the current political world and debate world and how you've sided kind of lately that goes against some of your values?
Nope, not at all. I have like an incredibly consistent position on language. It's just that people like to attribute a lot of the other like common left narratives on language to me. So like for instance, like when a lot of people said that like PewDiePie was racist for saying the N-word, I never said that. I said he probably says it a lot privately. He might be racist. I don't know if somebody that says the N-word, when they get mad or whatever is racist. There's a good chance they could be, but I don't know. But even against PewDiePie, like that was my stance. I didn't come out and was like, oh, PewDiePie's like a huge racist. Most of the time, what? Yeah.
Sorry, if I can just interject.
Yeah.
There, you did. There is a clip of you where you jokingly went, "Oh my god, I've just been killed by a guy. What a fucking," and you went and you went, "See, it's not hard to not say it," and you did make a point about that. So just
nothing in what you just said contradicts anything.
Not
I
at
just
all.
said
But
about
I'm just saying.
Yeah, sure. I thought it was funny that like a YouTuber.
You did drag PewDiePie for saying it as one of them.
Yeah, of course I would. That's fucking hilarious. He couldn't make it streaming for a week or two without fucking dropping an N-bomb on fucking stream. That's real funny. Streaming is way different than you do. I'm not gonna say. So I never said I didn't roast PewDiePie over it. I think it's funny as fuck that you not funny in like a LOL like we should all say the N-word, but funny in like a YouTuber like tried to start streaming and like fucked up that quickly. That's funny to me. But like. Yeah, in the worst way possible.
Yes,
but like,
can I give you some advice?
No.
I would like to say that, like, even with your close group of friends, it's a horrible habit to get into. You're a huge star. It's gonna slip out, dude.
Yeah. So, firstly, it doesn't. I don't think I've accidentally like N-bombed somebody publicly. Because I don't use language that way, even privately. But like, also
Wasn't
like,
there
there's
that
also
clip of you playing chess with Mr. Muton? that was bad?
Okay, there's a clip of me playing chess. So when me and Mr. Mooten play chess with each other, it's literally us screaming at each other for like 2 hours. That's what we do. Like we scream random shit. And then in one of these trips, I'm like, "Watch out, Mr. Mooten, you're getting real cringe," and I say it like 20 times, and it sounds like the N-word comes out. And supposedly this is me like letting it slip on stream. But if you listen to the 2-minute clip, it's like it's pretty obvious.
No,
I'm not trying
I remember
to say
when it first came out.
So yeah, no, there was not an N-word slip. I've never in my life on stream because I don't actually say it like that often. Like it's pretty fucking rare. Like I don't know if like people have this idea of me, and I could understand like I phrased it in a certain way, like, oh yeah, I say the N-word all the time, but I don't. It's not like I close the stream and it's like, oh, and I'm just like screaming in my apartment. It's pretty fucking rare. Like when I'm joking around like that edgy with a friend, like it doesn't usually happen that much.
I just think it's a shame you gave all these lunatics like the extra ammunition. Honestly,
I don't care. I mean, like people are gonna.
I know you know, but they never go away, buddy. That's the worst part.
It doesn't
about
matter. That's the best part. I love it because then people come on and debate me, and I get views on my fucking YouTube.
Yeah, I know, and that's what you're trying to fucking do to me for years. Yeah, I know, but the point is, these are a different breed, man. They don't want to come on and debate you. They want to cancel you. They want to end your career. They want to take all your money away. That's what I'm saying. I'm 100% worried because I know the fucking lunatic, that squirrel bitch.
Listen, I mean, like you know better than anyone else. First of all, I have her Twitter account now, by the way. I took that name.
Yeah, no. She took it down, and now she's going to be on Insta talking about you 24/7.
Yeah, so, like,
they never go away.
You know better than anybody that I've had these types of people coming after me literally forever. Like, it's just a part of doing business.
Yeah,
online.
okay,
Politics, like, it is what it is.
When you say something like, man, I use the M-word all the time, I know you don't use it all the time. I know what you're saying is privately, I'm not adverse to using it if a joke calls for it.
Yeah, I understand and I appreciate your advice, but like I have lived in these battlefields for the past 10 years.
This is a good podcast, boys.
Wrap it up, Dobie.
Okay. I love you, Trent.
It was a great podcast. Huge shout to everyone. Hey, boys, this was a great podcast. Yo, that last topic was a good wind down to some good
Okay. It's been fun. I wish I could sit through the outros, but I literally am so addicted to gaming scientifically that I can't.
All right. Catch you later, buddy.
Okay, wait,
hold on. Let me just get my take on this real quick. I just want to say this. All right, look. As far as Destiny, I don't think Destiny's a racist. I didn't think PewDiePie was a racist when he said the N-word, and I didn't feel like they were racist at all. I do think it is an offensive word, but I understand that at the end of the day, this is gaming culture. People are gonna say it behind the door. My thing is, I hate when people act like it's the worst shit in the world publicly. Like, you know, when it said, "Oh my God, don't say," and then it's like you find out they do it. Or they say it with their friends, and it's like, you know, you're being a hypocrite. You know what I mean? I hate when people are hypocritical about it. It's literally like, be real. At the end of the day, if you on your stream and you're a big personality and you like preaching like, okay, you shouldn't say the whatever, or I whatever, I say it with my friends or whatever it may be, you know what I mean? Then it is what it is. Like how Destiny says it, he's not necessarily saying he doesn't say it, but he's saying that it's not something that he does all the time. He does if he's getting super edgy, but at the same time, he's not going to say it publicly on stream. You know what I mean? And it's like, at the end of the day, we gamers, bro. I've been gaming for mad long. Like, come on, bro. We all heard it before. You know what I mean? But it's like, don't say the shit to me in my face, you know, and we good.
Real quick to add to that, dude.
Besides that, you know, I feel
I
like
wish you hadn't heard it before, ideally, though.
I feel like, look, the thing that doesn't, like, this is why it doesn't piss me off, like, because, like, people have said it and all of that. It doesn't piss me off because I went to a convention before. I've seen thousands of people, and not one person had the guts or even the nuts to try to say some shit like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, at the end of the day, I can get offended about it, but I mean, I'll take action if someone says it directly to me, or, you know, if it's like, okay, I see them and they say it in a way where they're trying to be disrespectful, then it gets handled. But I've never had that situation happen to me, and it's never happened to me in real life. So, like, that's what I take it. But I understand that with the history of the word, that's why people may take it so offensive. And when they find out people say it, they take it super offensive. But at the same time, just don't be a hypocrite.
To add to
and like,
that,
I feel like people overreact about the shit too much.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
Especially if you're not black, like, relax.
Well, I
like,
mean,
come on.